talk about courting chance. One morning at about 3 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I was on the computer, instant messaging with my friend Dennis Church. Bing, his message pops up. Hey, what are you doing up so early? I don't know, couldn't sleep. He says to me, by this time I've got audio on and video. So I'm talking to him at 3 o'clock in the morning. My office is right outside my master bedroom. He says to me, Greg, I saw an office plaza on the internet that I'm interested in. I said, oh, let's go take a look at it. Now we're sharing my screen. This is like a Microsoft commercial. I took a quick look at what he found, and I found I knew the plaza. I'm sorry, I said office plaza, but it was a retail plaza. And I knew the broker, Lou Pettingill, and I knew that he had it listed. This was a Friday morning, and every other Friday morning, I had a commercial investment members meeting. Lou was offering this retail plaza at a solid 9% cap rate, and the plaza was fully occupied and had recently undergone a full renovation. It was listed at only 4 p.m. on the previous day. Keep in mind, this is 11 hours later, 3 o'clock in the morning. I sent Lou an email by about 4, telling him I had a client interested in buying it. I had this meeting that I knew Lou often attended at 7 in the morning. I called on my way to the meeting and found out that I was unable to reach Lou, and Lou wasn't at the meeting. I had no other information because I was in the process of moving my office, so I was working out of my computer at home. I immediately drove I drove to his office on the way back from the CCM meeting. Make a long story short, we put a very strong contract together by 11 a.m., and I had to sign acceptance by 3:30 that afternoon. Dennis and I had put a $4.4 million deal together in less than 12 hours. Or did we? Well, while we did put the deal together in less than 12 hours, from start to finish, Dennis and I had prepared for this deal. In effect, we were courting chance. Let me explain what I mean by that. Dennis is a professional photographer, and he basically talked to me about his need to court chance as a photographer. He has trained for years. He's got all of the right equipment. He knows lighting. He knows the weather. He knows exposures. He knows the film he uses. Even so, he wanted the perfect candid photograph. He might have to sit for 6 days waiting for that perfect candid photograph. When the right moment came along, he had everything ready, snapped the shutter, he got his perfect picture. He was courting chance. Real estate investing, or even buying the right winter home, requires preparation, knowledge, experience, the ability to recognize the right opportunity when it comes along. Have you ever heard people say, I had a gut feeling? Well, the gut feeling comes from just kind of intrinsically knowing when you see something, you recognize all the pieces coming together and it feels right. It's because you're prepared to experience that gut feeling. The office plaza that we put under contract, the retail plaza we put under contract was not the first one we had seen. We knew what we were looking for. We knew what competitive cap rates were, prices. In effect, we were sitting there looking at many opportunities for the right one to come along. We were courting chance. Real estate is not a zero-sum game. In chess, for example, at the conclusion of a match, there's one winner and one loser. Pretty simple. Zero-sum. A zero-sum game is a term used in game theory to describe both real games and situations of all kinds, usually between two players or participants, where the gain of one player is offset by the loss of another player, equaling the sum of 0. The win, a +1, added to the loss, -0, -1 equals 0. Negotiations in business and in real estate, to be successful, must conclude as a positive sum. Both parties must gain. In Florida real estate, indeed locally here in Fort Myers and Cape Coral, the vast majority of sales today are either short sales or cash deals on foreclosed homes. Matter of fact, over the last 90 days, 67% of them were. The rate for foreclosure notices is leveling off, and more of these are being absorbed by buyers. It would appear to the uninformed that many of the sellers are losers and the buyers are winners. This is often the perception in the buyer's market, which indeed we are now experiencing. But real estate is not a zero-sum game. Florida is going through a normalization of market, a stabilization, if you will. We know we're close to a stabilized market because prices are starting to increase. Indeed, this is the case in single-family homes in some neighborhoods. Prices for homes are normally negotiated between a willing seller and a willing buyer. Short sales, sales of a home to a party for less than the seller owes to a bank, however, add a third party to the negotiation, a bank. The successful sale is still not a zero-sum game. All parties walk away with something. Knowing that this is not a zero-sum game may be a weak balm for the wounds that some sellers have because of the big loss that they're taking from when they bought the property to when they're selling it. But successful deals and short sales need to pay attention to the seller's needs as well as the buyers and the banks. Here are the gains for the parties. The bank gets a bad debt off their books. The seller gets on with his life, and in many cases with primary residences gets the deficiency judgment waived, and the buyer is able to buy a home at a fair price. Not a zero sum, more like 3 wins. Let's talk about income investing. Years ago, my brother Bill and I owned a beach house on Fort Myers Beach on 3rd Street, not too far from Moss Marine. Buying it was a story in itself. At the time, Bill and I lived next door to each other on Phillips Creek. We had purchased 9 acres off Route 41, and with 2 other partners, developed it into 12 building lots. And we each built houses on a single lot that we kept from the development. So Bill and I wound up living next door to each other, and often on a Sunday morning while our wives slept in, we'd go out and look at property. One Sunday, we decided to go look for a boat slip to keep our 23-foot Mako. By the way, we owned that boat together. Good way to buy houses with partners. Same thing with a boat. We were touring around boat slips off of San Carlos Boulevard, and I spied a slip with a for sale sign on it. Yes, this was in the time of cell phones, and by 10 a.m. it was a decent hour to call Marty Wallerstein, the agent. Marty informed me the slip was actually part of a house that was across the street. But he had a house on Fort Myers Beach near Moss Marine that came with a deep slip and the house that could be rented. Long story short, Bill and I bought that house under contract. We had it under contract within a few days. It was a triplex formerly owned by Paul Rosen, who built Marina Village. We wound up setting up a partnership, 2 friends from Scotland, to buy the house and set it up as a usage sharing plan. And we enjoyed that house for years till we sold it about 8 years ago. By the way, if you ever want to buy with partners, talk to me. We've got kind of a neat system of doing that. While owning the home, I was accumulating rental properties on a regular basis. Knowing this, one of the local realtors called me one day to talk to me about buying the home across the canal from this one. Bill and I had paid $165,000 for 3rd Street triplex and were receiving $21,000 in rents. This agent pointed to the home across the canal and told me that the owner was asking $300,000 for the home. I think it was $500,000. Sorry, $500,000 for the home. What are the rents? Just under $16,000, he replied. What makes you think it's worth $500,000? It has a view of the beach and is on the water. When you're an income investor, that doesn't matter. Needless to say, I never purchased the property. What the agent failed to realize was the value of the view and the water were not reflected in the rents, and I was an income buyer. I was not going to pay for them because that wouldn't make me money.